The coffee's hot. Hopefully the tea is hot. Welcome to the First Sip Thursday morning. We are getting through this short week. And you know what's getting a lot more play that I absolutely hate about this week is the India bilateral agreement. This is crazy. I'm getting tired of hearing this. Another bilateral agreement, another smiling photo of Anita Anand or Mark Carney sitting at a table signing a stack of paper that doesn't actually do anything. And this week, Anita Anand proudly announced a bilateral agreement with India. Again, another one, a so-called agreement on trade and relations coming down the pipe yet again. And right on cue, the Canadian media fired up the headlines. Canada signs trade deal with India, bilateral breakthrough with India, tensions cooling with India, improved relations. They were all there and they were all loud and proud about it, except there's just one problem. It's not a trade deal, not even close. It's a glorified handshake dressed up for the cameras. Because here's the truth. These bilateral agreements, as they keep calling them, that Mark Carney's government keeps churning out, have zero binding legal power. None. Not 1 ounce of it. They don't cut tariffs, they don't guarantee investment, and they don't hold anyone accountable to going through with them. What they do is create the illusion that something is actually happening when it's not actually happening. They let Carney and his ministers look busy while achieving absolutely nothing. So let's pull this thing apart. We're going to tear it all apart. What a bilateral agreement actually is, so you know in detail, because the media won't explain it to you, why these things are worthless, and the history of at least 5 past Canadian agreements that went absolutely nowhere. Because, folks, you're being sold a bill of goods again. Diplomatic theater, not trade progress. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things, the first sip. It's your Thursday. We're getting closer to the weekend, and we're fired up about bilateral agreements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and, of course, get in the conversation down below. When the government says it has signed a bilateral agreement, what they mean is this. 2 parties agreed to keep talking. That's it. Point final. They'll throw around fancy words like frameworks, roadmaps, or memorandum of understanding. But none of these things have legal force. They don't require parliamentary approval, which is exactly how they're getting around that. They don't bind either side to deliver anything, which you could never do with India anyway. And they're basically a written version of "we should do lunch sometime. Have your people call mine." Compare that to a real trade agreement, something like CETA with the European Union or the CPTPP with Pacific partners. Those have dispute settlement clauses. They require domestic ratification in both countries. They spell out tariff reductions, labor rules, environmental standards, and penalties if you don't follow through with the agreement. But bilateral agreements? None of that. None of that exists. They're built on words like "we will explore," "we intend to," "we will encourage." Boy, those are words the Liberals love, aren't they? Or my personal favorite, "we will strive to deepen relations and cooperation." That's diplomatic code for "nothing's been decided here today, so we agree to meet again someday." So when you see Mark Carney's government announce another bilateral success, because I'm sure more are coming, remember, it's not a contract and it has achieved nothing. It is nothing more than a conversation between 2 countries and a signed piece of paper that says you'll get together again in the future. You're basically signing to have a second date. This is what makes these deals so useful politically, though, because they cost the government absolutely nothing but the trip. And the trips are expensive, but that's still all they cost. They risk nothing, and they sound like progress, which is great for media hooks. You get the photo op of the minister shaking hands across a table with flags in the background. You get a press release that says Canada and India have reaffirmed their shared commitment to strengthen ties. You get a round of soft questions from the press about how encouraging it is to see these 2 countries talking again, and that dialogue has resumed, and then you get a photo op moment of the 2 representatives signing a piece of paper. And that's it. The government gets to claim it's re-engaging on the world stage. Meanwhile, no tariffs actually change, no goods move or change hands, no companies hire, and no one is held to anything that's written down on that piece of paper. It's public relations genius, but it's also masquerading as policy, and it's a giant, giant lie. And under Mark Carney, it's become a full-time strategy of his government. They can't deliver results at home, so they churn out paper abroad, hoping the headlines will distract Canadians from the lack of actual progress here. Look at how much he's doing. He flew to another place and signed another piece of paper. Look at all this progress. Now I'm just going to turn off my TV and go on about my day, having done zero research about anything he actually just achieved, which is nothing. Let's talk history, because Canada's track record on these so-called bilateral breakthroughs is actually abysmal. Example 1. The never-ending Canada-India saga. We've been negotiating a Canada-India trade agreement since 2010. That's the part the media fails to tell you. It's been almost done about 7 times under Trudeau and now Carney. There's even a name for it, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or CEPA. And every few years, there's a photo, a statement, a promise that it's coming, and then, of course, it collapses again. So what do you think is about to happen here? See, India says Canada isn't serious. Canada says India isn't flexible. The truth, neither side trusts the other enough to at least actually finalize anything. So instead of admitting failure, the Liberals keep announcing new bilateral frameworks with India, just like this one. And if you're keeping score, folks, that's 15 years of quote-unquote progress that you supposedly voted for. Yeah, that's you, Liberals. And still, no deal. None. Example 2, the U.S.-Canada Energy Transformation Task Force. Sounds powerful, doesn't it? Task Force. Transformation. Energy cooperation. In May 2024, Canada and the U.S. extended this task force, complete with a joint statement about collaboration on clean energy and critical minerals. But here's what that really means. More meetings, which probably won't happen under Donald Trump now. More working groups, which won't happen under Donald Trump. No actual commitments to build pipelines, no binding energy trade guarantees, and certainly no enforcement of if one side changes direction, I should say. Which the U.S. does every single election cycle anyway. It's a glorified committee that can be quietly ignored the moment it becomes inconvenient by both countries. The third example, because it just doesn't stop, the working together health agreements with the provinces. Well, remember those press releases about Ottawa signing bilateral health agreements with each and every province in this country? It sounded like the federal government was swooping in to fix healthcare, didn't it? But what actually happened was that Ottawa agreed to give money, provinces agreed to work together, and then everyone went home. That was it. There was no national standard being enforced, no penalties for failure, no transparent results in the end, and just billions in transfers and some fine print saying, hey, we'll share data about all of this at some point. That's not reform. Another PR stunt within our walls. Example 4, the Columbia River Treaty Modernization AIP with the U.S. Again, last year. Now again, under the Biden administration, I get it, but we got another round of self-congratulation when Canada and the U.S. announced an agreement in principle on flood control and hydropower. The media treated it like the final deal was done, but of course it wasn't. An agreement in principle is, by definition, unfinished. That's what agreement in principle is. It's basically saying, we like where this is heading. So let's sign off on the fact that we like where this is heading. That's not a treaty. That's a draft. Somebody's signing off on a draft. Example 5, the endless parade of frameworks with ASEAN, Vietnam, and Africa. Every few months, you'll see a press release about Canada signing a framework to enhance cooperation with some emerging market somewhere. Then nothing. No measurable growth. No new export deals. No binding obligations. These frameworks come and go, everybody. They come and go like press conferences do. In other words, all of it is talk with paper. They're just killing a tree. All photo ops, all sizzle, no steak. Just like I said a couple of episodes ago. So, look, here's the thing. Here's why it matters to you, because I'm sure you're sitting there wondering, well, here they are signing everything to justify the cost of their trip. Well, maybe you're thinking, so what? It's just diplomacy. This is what they do. Talking is good, right? Sure, dialogue does matter. But when a government starts using empty agreements to replace real accomplishments, that's when it becomes very dangerous, because there are people who do not do research who believe all of this stuff, because Canadians are being misled, and they're happy to be misled by their mainstream media. They're told we signed a deal, trade is improving, when nothing has actually changed at all. It's like announcing you joined a gym but never actually going to the gym. You still get to post the selfie at the gym, but you don't lose any weight. And while we're chasing headlines, real trade opportunities are slipping away. Other countries are signing hard, enforceable agreements with binding targets and dispute resolution clauses. Canada, meanwhile, is busy writing press releases about deepening dialogues with emerging markets. It means nothing. This is not government leadership. It's entirely performance art at its finest. And Mark Carney has pretty much mastered how to make it look like something's being done, but not actually do anything. See, Mark Carney's entire government runs on this formula: appear busy, achieve nothing. How many of you have known employees at your work that appear busy but achieve nothing? We saw it with housing. He creates a Canadian housing office. That doesn't even deal with homeowners. It's garbage. We see it with defense. He creates a major projects office that pays executives more than the prime minister himself, but hasn't launched a single new major project under that office. Every project is already underway. And now we see it with trade, an endless parade of bilateral agreements from international destinations afar that are nothing but diplomatic selfies that cost you the cost of the trip of him going all these places. These photo ops let Carney and his ministers jet around the world, pose with flags, issue statements, and call it progress. But the truth is, nothing in these documents obliges anyone to do anything, and you're paying for the trips. No binding timelines, no penalties, no legal recourse, just words. And if words could grow exports, Canada would be the richest country on earth by now. In fact, we keep being told that's where we're going to go under this government. The problem is none of these agreements actually action anything at all, or even present a plan to action anything at all. That's what we'll be talking about down the road. So let's be clear about what these agreements really truly are. They're smoke, they're theater, they're signatures for the cameras, especially the CBC cameras. And they're being used to fool Canadians into believing that this government is working for them, when all it's really doing is traveling the world, seeing the world, really, that's about it, and keeping up appearances. If you want real trade progress, you need deals that cut tariffs, that protect Canadian investors abroad, that open markets for our goods, and that are ratified through Parliament, that actually have to go through the decision-making process, because that's the only way it can get approved, not just nodded through by a minister in front of a photo wall. You think Anita Anand has the power to make these decisions? She doesn't. Until then, every time you hear the words bilateral agreement, it's time to question everything. Picture a pen signing air, because that's about all that's worth. So here's the thing. We need better awareness, not just among conservatives, but among all Canadian voters, Liberal, Conservative, NDP, Green, whoever you align yourself with. That's my message to Canadians tonight. Don't be fooled by the optics. Don't let headlines about bilateral breakthroughs make you think Canada is suddenly competing again. If the government wants to prove it's doing something real, show us the deliverables. Show us the trade volume starting to increase. Show us the enforcement clauses that make sure India and others actually abide by this along with us. Otherwise, it's just another signature on a long line of empty promise signatures that Mark Carney has made. Mark Carney's government loves to say it's restoring Canada's leadership. But leadership isn't a photo op. Leadership is delivering something tangible, something that we can measure, something that actually changes the lives of Canadians. And that hasn't happened yet. And until that happens, I'll call these things what they really truly are. They're paper illusions, written by bureaucrats, sold by ministers, and swallowed whole by a compliant media who does whatever Mark Carney says. And the saddest part? Canadians deserve so much better than signatures and empty promises without substance. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. The next time that you see Anita Anand or Mark Carney or any of his other ministers grinning for the cameras from ear to ear, making stupid jokes, remember this. It's not a deal they just signed. It's just a distraction. Because in Carney's Canada, signing the paper matters more than delivering the promise. And that is the truth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course share this video. Let's bring more people into this knowledge. Let's share it across the board. And of course, have the discussion down below. Do you believe any of these agreements have any substance or any accountability to them whatsoever? And don't forget that we'll see you at the end of today when we do the last word for our Thursday. But until then, have yourselves a wonderful day. Go enjoy the rest of your coffee or tea, and we'll see you this evening.